Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling something pretty big. We're going to be exploring the history of religions. You've been asking some really deep questions, haven't you? Like, where did religion even come from? How has it impacted humanity? And why does it still matter in today's world? Well, we're about to find out.
It's amazing, isn't it? This human desire to understand our place in the universe. Seems like it's been with us forever. I mean, it's no wonder that religion has been a part of human culture for so long. As long as we've been telling stories, really.
It's like we're hardwired to seek meaning, right? I mean, imagine yourself back in the time of early humans.
Oh, I see what you mean. No science to explain the world around them. Just the sun, the moon, the stars, and the storms.
Exactly. And the earthquakes. No wonder they came up with stories about gods and spirits. They needed a way to make sense of it all, didn't they?
The text definitely highlights that. Those stories, those myths, they gave early humans a sense of order, a sense of meaning in a world that must have felt incredibly chaotic.
Like, take the ancient Egyptians, for example. They saw the sunrise every morning, brought light and warmth, life itself. They didn't have telescopes or the science behind it. So they imagined a powerful god, Ra, pulling the sun across the sky.
A chariot. They pictured him in a chariot, that's right. And the Egyptians weren't alone. Early humans all over the world were doing something similar, attributing spirits to everything around them. Trees, rocks, rivers, animals.
Everything. It's like they saw the world as this living, breathing entity.
Exactly. A world full of unseen forces. That's what animism is all about. And, religion wasn't just about individual beliefs either. It played a huge role in building community.
It was about belonging, wasn't it?
Yes. Shared beliefs, shared rituals. Think about those incredible ziggurats built by the Sumerians, huge temples dedicated to their gods.
They weren't just places of worship. They were at the very center of their social and cultural lives.
Absolutely. So we've got early humans finding meaning and connection through stories and rituals.
Right. But then society started to become more complex. Their religions did too. We see these organized religions starting to emerge, with doctrines, hierarchies, and systems of belief that have lasted for centuries.
The text really emphasizes that shift. From those more fluid, localized practices to these more structured, codified systems. A pivotal moment in human history, really.
So let's talk about some of those major religions. Hinduism, for example, it's ancient. Its history goes back thousands of years.
Thousands, yes. And it's not just one religion, is it? It's more like a family of religions.
That tapestry of beliefs and practices.
Exactly. Woven together over centuries, but with some shared core concepts, like karma, dharma, and reincarnation.
Okay, those are big ones. Let's break those down. What do they actually mean in the context of Hinduism?
Well, imagine like a cosmic cause and effect system. That's karma. Every action, every thought, every word has consequences. It shapes your destiny, not just in this life, but potentially over multiple lifetimes.
Whoa! So it's like what goes around comes around, but on a much grander scale.
Yes. And then there's dharma. Your dharma is essentially your role in the universe, your duty, your purpose. It's about fulfilling your obligations, living ethically, being the best version of yourself that you can be.
And reincarnation. That's the idea that the soul is reborn again and again, right? Carrying with it the karma from previous lives.
It's about continuous growth. You're on this epic journey of self-discovery, learning, and evolving over many lifetimes. A fascinating concept, really.
It really is. So we've got Hinduism, this incredibly old, complex tradition. And then we see Judaism emerge. The text really emphasizes the significance of Judaism.
Yes, Judaism marks a really important shift in religious thought, the belief in one God, monotheism. And it was incredibly influential, wasn't it? Judaism laid the groundwork for both Christianity and Islam.
And then we have Christianity, which just exploded onto the scene and completely reshaped Western civilization. How did that happen? How did it spread so quickly throughout the Roman Empire? Was it just because of the teachings of Jesus?
It's more complicated than that. While the message of love and compassion definitely resonated with many, the spread of Christianity was also influenced by political and social factors. Some Roman emperors embraced it. They saw it as a unifying force, while others saw it as a threat.
So the context really mattered, how Christianity interacted with the existing power structures.
Definitely. The text describes how, despite initial persecution, Christianity eventually gained acceptance within the Roman Empire. It eventually even became the official religion, and that had a profound impact on history, on art, culture, politics, even how we see the world today.
And then, just a few centuries later, we have the rise of Islam. Coming out of the Arabian Peninsula,
with a message of peace, submission to God, and social justice.
Yes. The Prophet Muhammad, his teachings, those revelations compiled in the Quran, they established a faith that spread rapidly across the Middle East, North Africa, beyond. And like Christianity, Islam really emphasizes community, charity, and living a life guided by divine principles. So we're seeing these common threads, right? This desire to connect with something larger than ourselves, whether it's through the concept of one God or the idea of this cyclical journey of karma and reincarnation.
Right. And then, of course, alongside those major religions, there's a whole world of Eastern traditions and newer faiths, adding even more layers to this amazing tapestry.
Buddhism, for example, it all started with Siddhartha Gautama, who, gave up a life of privilege to search for enlightenment. He became known as the Buddha, the awakened one.
And what's so interesting about Buddhism is that it's not really about worshiping a god. It's more about understanding the nature of reality and finding liberation from suffering through practices like meditation and mindfulness.
So it's more about a personal journey of inner transformation rather than adhering to like a strict dogma.
Yes, exactly. The Buddha taught that suffering is just a part of life, but we can free ourselves from it by understanding that everything is impermanent and by cultivating compassion and wisdom.
And it's amazing how Buddhism spread from India throughout Asia, taking on these different forms, different interpretations along the way.
Like Zen Buddhism in Japan, which really emphasizes meditation, direct experience, or Tibetan Buddhism, with its elaborate rituals and that focus on reincarnation.
It's like that analogy the text uses. Religion is like a tree. It branches out, each branch representing a different expression of those core teachings.
And then you have those newer faiths, too. Sikhism, which emphasizes service and equality, and the Baha'i faith, which promotes unity and peace among everyone.
It's fascinating how these newer religions often draw inspiration from existing traditions, while also introducing new ideas, new perspectives.
It shows that this human quest for meaning and connection, it's an ongoing process, always evolving, always responding to the world around us.
So we've got this incredible array of religions, each one with its own history, beliefs, and practices. But why? Why have humans, throughout history, felt this need to connect with something bigger than themselves? What is it about religion that's so compelling?
Well, the text gives us some really interesting insights. For many, religion is a source of comfort, especially in difficult times. It offers hope, purpose, in a world that can often feel so chaotic and uncertain. And it provides rituals and traditions, things that bring people together, create a sense of belonging.
And, the text also talks about the impact religion has had on art, music, and architecture. Think about the incredible beauty of mosques, temples, and cathedrals, or the inspiring music and artwork created in devotion to various faiths.
Religion has been a powerful force for creativity. It's shaped landscapes, artistic expressions, even the way we think about the world, our place in it.
But let's be honest, we can't talk about religion without acknowledging the complexities. It's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Yeah.
The text doesn't shy away from that.
No, it doesn't. Religion has been a source of conflict, disagreement, throughout history.
And that raises a really tough question. How do we reconcile the positive aspects of religion with the negative? How do we understand the role it's played in both uniting and dividing people?
It's a challenging question, and there are no easy answers. But the text does a good job of presenting a balanced view. It acknowledges those conflicts, but it also highlights all the examples of people using their faith for good, to promote peace, understanding, compassion.
So it's not about the religion itself, but how people choose to interpret and use it.
Precisely. Religion, like any powerful force, can be distorted, used for harmful purposes. But it can also be a powerful force for good, inspiring acts of kindness, charity, and social justice.
And this brings us to another important point. Religions aren't static. They're constantly changing, evolving, adapting to new interpretations and cultural influences.
That's right. The text uses the analogy of a tree branching out to illustrate this. From that single trunk, so many branches grow, each one representing a different expression, a different interpretation of the original faith.
Just like a tree needs to adapt to survive, religions evolve and change to remain relevant.
And then you have new ideas branching out too, like atheism and agnosticism. The text emphasizes that these perspectives deserve just as much respect as any other belief system.
It reminds us that there are many different paths to meaning and purpose. Some people find it through religion, others through different philosophies or their own personal journey. What's important is that we approach those differences with understanding and respect.
Exactly. And, the text describes this person who visits all these different places of worship, a church, a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, experiencing the unique beauty and spiritual energy of each one. It must have been incredible.
It really highlights the richness and diversity of human religious experience. All these different ways for people to connect with something larger than themselves, to find meaning, seek answers to those big questions.
And before we move on, it might be good to recap what we've covered so far. We've gone from the earliest forms of religion, where humans use stories of gods and spirits to understand the world, to the rise of these major organized religions: Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. We've talked about how religion has shaped history, art, culture, and architecture, acknowledged its power to both unite and divide.
And we've only just scratched the surface of this vast and ever-evolving world of religion.
As we head into the next part of our exploration, there's one question I think is really important to keep in mind. What role does religion play in your own life? How do you see its impact on the world today?
Such a great question to ponder. We'll be back soon to delve even deeper into your research. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive, into the fascinating world of religion.
It's been quite a journey so far, hasn't it? We're talking before the break about the role of religion in our lives and in the world around us.
And it's a conversation, that I think requires a lot of sensitivity.
Oh, absolutely. A willingness to really try to understand different perspectives.
Especially those perspectives that might differ from our own, right? Because religion is such a personal thing.
What might seem totally irrelevant to one person could hold so much meaning for someone else.
Exactly. I mean, so much of it comes down to respect.
Respecting those differences, even if we don't fully understand them.
Right. And remember, we're not here to judge anyone's beliefs. Our goal is to explore, to understand this incredible tapestry of human experience.
To see those connections, because in a way, religion is kind of like a lens, isn't it? A lens through which people view the world.
It shapes their values, their understanding of right and wrong. It provides a framework.
A framework for navigating those big questions in life, like, what's our purpose? Why are we here?
What happens after we die? What's the meaning of suffering? The text really highlights this. It shows how different religions grapple with these fundamental questions.
And how the answers they provide can shape everything.
Exactly. How people live their lives, how they interact with others, how they contribute to society as a whole.
So let's talk about how those answers have actually shaped societies. I mean, the research talks about how religion played a role in establishing laws and social norms.
Think about the 10 Commandments in Judaism and Christianity.
The 5 pillars of Islam. Those are sets of principles that guide ethical behavior.
They're not just about personal belief. They're the foundation for conduct within a community.
And in many cases, those principles have influenced the structure of entire societies.
Oh, yes. Throughout history, religious leaders have held political power.
And religious institutions have played really important roles in things like education.
Healthcare, social welfare.
And, in many cases, religion has been a driving force for social progress.
Pushing for justice, equality, and compassion. Think about the civil rights movement in the United States.
Many religious leaders played key roles in that movement.
And the work of faith-based organizations around the world providing aid to those in need. Amazing.
But of course, there's another side to this story, isn't there?
Yes, unfortunately. History also shows us how religion has been used to justify terrible things. Oppression, discrimination, even violence.
Those darker chapters where religious differences have fueled conflict and persecution.
It reminds us that religion, like anything powerful, can be misused.
Distorted.
Manipulated to serve harmful agendas. It's a difficult truth to confront, but it's important to acknowledge it, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it brings us back to that idea of interpretation. How can this same religious text
be interpreted in such vastly different ways? How can it lead to such different outcomes?
And it makes you think about the role of context, right?
Right. Social, political, and even economic factors can influence how people understand and apply religious teachings.
Which is why critical thinking is so important.
Being willing to engage in dialogue, to challenge interpretations that promote hatred or intolerance.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Recognizing the potential for good while also being aware of the potential for harm.
And maybe, just maybe, it's through open and honest conversation that we can start to bridge those divides.
That we can move towards a more peaceful and just world.
So we've talked about religion shaping individuals and societies. But what about its influence on things like culture and the arts? We touched on architecture earlier.
The grandeur of cathedrals, the intricate beauty of mosques, the serene simplicity of Buddhist temples.
Those structures are more than just places of worship. They're expressions of faith.
Testaments to human creativity and devotion. Works of art themselves, really.
And it's not just architecture either. Religious themes show up in art, music, literature, dance, everywhere.
Think about Renaissance paintings depicting scenes from the Bible.
Or the power of gospel music. Religious themes have permeated the arts for centuries, haven't they?
Offering us a glimpse into the beliefs and aspirations of different cultures throughout history.
Inviting us to contemplate those big questions about life and death, good and evil.
The search for meaning. The questions that have always been with us.
And what's interesting is that these works of art often transcend religious boundaries, don't they? They speak to universal human experiences.
Love, loss, hope, despair.
Like the poetry of Rumi.
The Sufi mystic, whose words still resonate with people today, regardless of their background.
Or the music of Bach.
A devout Christian whose compositions evoke this sense of awe and wonder, something that goes beyond any specific dogma.
It shows how art can connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Inspiring us to think differently, to live more meaningful lives.
And, as we've been exploring this world of religion, one of the most profound takeaways for me is this.
This idea that even in the face of so much suffering, there's still beauty to be found.
Hope to be embraced.
And that sense of connection that unites us all, it's really quite powerful, isn't it?
It really is.
And as we move forward, I think it's so important to approach this topic with a sense of curiosity and empathy, and a willingness to learn from different perspectives.
Because ultimately, isn't the study of religion really a study of ourselves? What it means to be human, our search for meaning.
It's about understanding the role religion has played in shaping our world, appreciating the complexity of the human experience, the ways in which we seek meaning, purpose, and connection.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've covered so much ground in our exploration of religion, haven't we?
We have, from those early creation stories to the rise of these massive organized faiths and their impact on, well, everything. Societies, cultures, you name it.
And it's been pretty eye-opening to see how religion, despite its ancient roots, it's not static, it's always evolving.
That's right. It's not stuck in the past. Think of it like a river, maybe. Always carving new paths, changing with the landscape of human experience, that is.
I like that. We tend to think of religious traditions as fixed and unchanging, but they're not. They're way more dynamic than that.
Each generation comes along and interacts with those traditions, reinterprets them, adapts them to fit their own time and place.
It's happening all around us. We've got new religious movements springing up all the time, and established faiths are grappling with, how to address modern-day issues like climate change, social justice, technology.
And even the fact that more and more people are identifying as spiritual but not religious, it's all part of this evolution, this ongoing search for meaning, this need to connect.
Exactly. And those ways we express that search, they're constantly changing too.
The text even mentions how some religions are incorporating elements of other faiths or philosophies, creating these, hybrid forms of belief, blends of different traditions. It's pretty fascinating.
It really is. Spiritual fusion cuisine. That's what it sounds like.
It shows just how creative and adaptable we humans can be, right? And maybe it's a sign of things to come, religious boundaries becoming more fluid, especially in a world that's so interconnected.
So looking ahead, where do you think things are going? Will we see these traditional faiths make a comeback? Or will we see completely new forms of spirituality emerge? What about technology, globalization? How will they continue to shape the future of religion?
Big questions, $1 million question, right? Who knows for sure what the future holds? But I think we can look for clues. Look at the trends. What are they telling us about this deep human need for meaning, connection, for something that goes beyond our everyday experience?
It's not about finding the right answers, maybe. It's more about the journey itself. Yeah. This constant exploration of what it means to be human, especially in a world that never stops changing.
Well said. And I think that's a really powerful message to end on. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? This deep dive into the world of religion.
It really has. So to our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring those big questions too. Think about your own relationship with religion, spirituality, your own personal search for meaning.
It's a journey that looks different for everyone. Whether you identify with a particular faith, explore different paths, or find meaning in secular philosophies, just remember this. That journey is yours to define.
Keep asking those tough questions. Keep exploring. Keep an open mind. Because the world of religion, it's full of complexities, contradictions, but it also offers this incredibly rich tapestry of human experience. And it's all waiting to be discovered.
Well said. And on that note, until next time, happy exploring.